and kind of looks like we get a 2-for-1. I think they're really doubling down on making sure we shore up that offensive line. Troy, what is your biggest takeaway from both of these additions?
Well, Paul brought up Coach Clem, so I'll let him talk about Coach Clem on the offensive line. But I'll start with Richard Owens, who's going to be the new tight end coach. He's leaving the University of Louisville, where he was the offensive line coach there, coming to Tuscaloosa to coach tight ends. This guy has been an offensive coordinator, a wide receiver coach, a run game coordinator. He has coached just about every position on the offense, it seems like, except quarterbacks and running backs now. So he comes over from Louisville, where they were very successful running the ball. I think they had a top five rushing offense every single year that he was there. And one thing that stuck out to me was in the announcement, Coach DeBoer made a comment that Coach Owens will not only help the tight ends, but the offense as a whole. Which
Mm-hmm.
that is a when I'm reading, between the lines, I think that's another comment that we're going to try to run the ball. If we are going to try, we are going to keep going, make any improvement we can. So I'm very excited about Richard Owens. Not going to lie, I didn't know much about him at first, but I do know that Louisville did have a lot of success running the football. So I'm really, really excited about it now with Brian Ellis making the move over to coach quarterbacks.
Yeah, no, I agree. Coach Clem, obviously we've all talked about him ad nauseum. He's had some great offenses. He's had some of the best rushing when he was at Oregon and many other stops. He played in the NFL. He won rings with New England with Belichick. He knows his stuff. He stepped away from coaching due to a heart issue, some health things going on. He's back. He's got vast, vast experience. Unfortunately, I don't have all my notes from previous videos on him, but I thought, a very stellar hire for he came out of the woodwork. Richard Owens to me was a woodwork guy that I was like, who's this guy? But when he was at Arkansas as a grad assistant, they had pretty good offensive lines. He went to UAB as an OC. Then he went to South Alabama as the tight ends coach. That's where he knew Kane Womack from. He went and he was also an O line coach at Louisville and a tight ends coach. And they had some top, like you said, Troy Marcus. They had some amazing rushing, and some years they almost gained 200 yard or 185 yards a game per game through the whole season. They had top five lines. Then he went to UAB as O line coach. Um, he went to Georgia Southern as the run game coordinator and O line coach. He went back to Louisville as the O line coach. They liked him so much they rehired him again. Um, and 2023 and 2025, they were top five in ACC in rushing. They only allowed 15 sacks in 13 games. And then in 2022, he was at Georgia Southern. They only allowed 7 sacks all year. In 21, they averaged 386 yards per game, 180 rushing, 206 passing. In 2020, they had 200 rushing yards per game, fourth fewest sacks in the nation. So he's got pedigree. He knows what he's
Yep.
doing. I imagine in his role, what he's going to be doing. Obviously, tight ends, we got to get better there. The only tight end I thought we had of note last year was Cuevas. Some of the guys had bricks for hands that were really bad, like Pritchard. They'll get better, no problem. I think he's coming in to do that. I know a lot of people are not very excited about Josh Ford, our tight end for Oklahoma State, that's coming in. But Oklahoma State didn't throw to tight ends. That's a fact. They just didn't. That wasn't part of their game. I think some of the new tight ends coming in this recruiting class, I did not write his name down. He's a big kid. He's like 6'6", about 260. He is a fast kid. I think we'll use him a lot more. I think he will be an integral part in teaching our darn tight ends how to block.
Yep.
They have not been good in 2 years shoring up that the left end or the right end. That's something that's got to change. And he did great in all of his stops throughout college in doing that. So I think he will do that. And I also think he'll be a run game coordinator because he was a run game coordinator at a lot of different places besides a tight end coach. So I think he'll be utilizing that. He's a underutilized offensive line coach and tight ends coach that I think a lot of people were not tracking on his radar.
No, I agree. And going back to Josh Ford, I'm stoked about Josh Ford. Give me a 6'7", 265-pound tight end that can serve as that sixth offensive lineman. No, I am very, very excited about that. And I've watched some of what he did at Oklahoma State, and he finishes people. So I'm very excited about Josh Ford. He signed several weeks before everybody else. So it kind of was just like, oh, tight end from Oklahoma State who caught like 10 balls. Yeah, that's really cool. But if you kind of put the pieces together, he was recruited, I think, for a very specific reason, like you said, Paul, to shore up those right and left ends.
Yeah, and that could be another reason why, of course we tried to get Hollywood Smothers, but had that whole disaster. But, I think I put more of that on Hollywood, and I'm glad that he is not on our team anymore. I mean, after all that fiasco. But other than that, they sat back and said, no, look, we're going to shore up this offensive line and we're going to run the football. And we've got talented running backs. We got AK Deer. He barely got a touch last year. And I've kind of thought maybe you attribute a little bit of that to they just knew the offensive line was not great and they didn't want to get him out there and just ruin his confidence. And they figured we're going to fix this next year. Let's let AK get his wheels going next year. And then you're bringing in the guy from Birmingham, one of the top backs in the country.
Crowell.
Yeah, Crowell. I mean, so you've got some talent back there. So I think if you shore up that offensive line, it is a completely different offensive line, completely different coaching. It's going to be different. And it can't get much worse. I think.
Yeah, I hope not.
I mean, you're what, 120th out of 135 teams?
125. Yep.
Exactly. So, but another thing with hiring a tight ends coach that has experience in on the offensive line, I think, like Troy, I know you've mentioned before, DeBoer, one thing he mentioned on going out for a new offensive line coach was we need to get back to the basics. We need to get back to technique. And seems like that really wasn't being taught. Our previous offensive coach Cap was a great recruiter, but kind of seems like that's mainly what we were focused on. And now we're getting back to technique. And when you have two guys that are kind of helping in that position, I think it really helps with accountability. So kind of getting back to the basics, and you got, one guy, they want to worry about job security and making sure they're doing the right things. And I think two guys coming together to work on that offensive line is just going to help with accountability, technique, getting back to the basics. So I think that's going to be one of the best parts about that.
Oh, I agree completely. They've certainly recognized that, as did everyone else, that was going to be had to be the number one priority going into the offseason. And I think most moves that they've made have kind of signaled that too.